Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I hope all of you and your loved ones should be doing fine and enjoying good health. And I hope all of you will be working hard on your studies too, and you would be utilizing this time properly for your academic objectives. So, in our today's lecture, we would continue with our previous discussion about the concept of power in international relations. And in our last lecture, we discussed about the various elements of power in a comprehensive way, and both the tangible and intangible elements of power have been thoroughly discussed and evaluated in our previous lecture, and other associated terminologies like material and non-material elements of power and stable and non-stable elements of power have also been discussed. So in our today's lecture, we would continue with the discussion about various dimensions of power in the international relations. And today we will talk about Joseph Nye's frames of power or the kinds of power. Joseph Nye has been renowned all over the world because of his contribution to this very aspect of power, and his ideas of soft power and smart power have been heavily emphasized by the researchers all around the world, and still a lot of research is being done on the practicability of the soft and smart power concept given by Joseph Nye. So today we will talk about the various categorization of power proposed by Joseph Nye, and we will try to have a thorough discussion about all those categorization of power. So first of all, we would talk about the ideas of Joseph Nye about power. As the discipline of international relation was evolving, and still it's been going through an evolutionary phase, the rigid interpretation of power slowly started to change. So with the changes happening all around the world, and particularly in the sphere of the international relations, the concepts which are discussed or which are utilized in the study of international relations, they are also going through an evolutionary trend, and the concept of power is no exception in this regard. The rigid interpretation of power slowly started to change, and now we have various new dimensions of power which has been incorporated into the old concept of power in international relations. So in particular, Joseph Nye, who has been known as the architect of these new innovations in the concept of power, argued that the changing nature of international framework has re-emphasized the use of intangible forms of power such as culture, ideology, and institutions. These are the things which are considered the intangible elements of power or forms of power, and these have been highly re-emphasized in the changing nature of the international framework. The growing social mobilization make the factors of technology, education, and economic growth as if not more significant as geography, population, and resources. So these elements of geography, population, and resources, they are known as the forms of hard power. So besides the forms of hard power, the forms of the intangible forms of power such as culture, education, and ideology and institutions, they have equally become significant in nowadays concept of power. Conversely, talking about the the Bolden ideas, he argued that the importance of military force has been previously exaggerated. So Baldwin is of the view that in the olden times or in the previous times, it's like the importance or the significance of military force or the hard power element have been exaggerated, while the role of non-military forms of power has been underestimated. So he is of the opinion that perhaps in the old times, hard power instruments such as the military force have been exaggerated, while the non-military elements of power, they have been underestimated. So the significance of non-military elements of power was still there, but it was underestimated. So now we will talk about the kinds of power given by Joseph Nye. So traditionally, the power is categorized into hard power and soft power, but recently a smart power concept has been introduced by Joseph Nye as well, which has been highly researched all around the globe because of its significance and increasing usage in the affairs of the international relations, or it is highly been employed by different states around the world. So we will try to talk about the different categories or different types of power given by Joseph Nye. And before talking about the hard power, soft power, and smart power concepts, we would try to elaborate the definition of power given by Joseph Nye. According to Nye, power is an ability to affect others to achieve the outcomes one wants. Or in other words, power is the ability to influence the behavior of others to get a desired outcome. Historically, power has been measured by such criteria as population size and territory, natural resources, economic strength, military force, and social mobility. So, when we talk about the power in the context of history, generally it has been measured through the tangible sources of power such as, or the military sources of power such as population size, territory, natural resources, economic strength, military force, and social mobility. Non-military and intangible elements of power have not been highly emphasized in the previous times, as Baldwin said, like they have been underestimated. hard and soft power can be considered as two pure forms of power, and a new form has been introduced by Joseph Nye that comprises of the both the hard power and soft power. So now we will talk about the both the hard power and soft power one by one. So first we will talk about the hard power. Hard power or command power is the oldest form of power. It is connected to the idea of an anarchic international system. So because of the anarchic nature of the international system, the hard power is the prerequisite for the state to survive. Where countries, it is connected to the idea of an anarchic international system where countries do not recognize any superior authority and thus have to focus on power politics. When we talk about the very definition of power politics, we came to know that power politics is all about having more and more power. So power politics is all about power. Hard power is defined as an ability to reach one's goals through coercive action or threats. So it is defined in a way that it is the capability of one state to achieve its goals by utilizing coercion or threats. The so-called carrot and stick phenomena is associated with this form of power in the international politics. Historically, hard power has been measured by such criteria as population size, territory, geography, natural resources, military force, and economic strength. So, in other words, we can say hard power enables countries to wield carrot and sticks to get what they want. Taking the examples of the United States of America, the Pentagon's budget for financial year 2008 was more than dollar 750 US dollar, 750 billions US dollar, and it was growing, and it was many times more than the nearest competitor at that time. The United States has the world's largest economy, and more than third of the top 500 global companies are Americans. So there is no other global power, and yet American hard power does not always translate into influence. So through this example, we can see that though Americans have established their superiority in the entire world, and it has been categorized as truly a global power, but still it has a grip over the means of hard power, still enjoys a solid grip over the means of hard power in the entire world, but still it is not always the case that the hard power translates into influence to or to get their goals. So trends such as these have made power less tangible and coercion less effective. Machiavelli, he is known as the realist of his time, said it was safer to be feared than to be loved. So, by this statement, we can infer from this very statement that to be feared means like it is associated with the grip over the hard elements of power, elements of hard power, and to be loved, it is associated with the soft power. So in Machiavelli said it was safer to be feared than to be loved. So before that, like in the previous times, states used to be so strong to make other states feel fear of them, and not to be attracted by other states of the world. The emphasis was on to be feared rather than to be loved. But in today's global information age, the things have changed, and it's better to be both. Like it's better for the states to be feared and to be loved as well. So that means like it is imperative for states to work both on the soft power and hard power to get their objectives done in its relationship with other states. So on the other hand, soft power rests on ability to shape the preferences of others without the use of force, coercion, or violence, but through intangible assets such as an attractive personality, culture, political values, institutions, and policies that are seen as legitimate or having moral authority. And legitimacy is at the core of the soft power. So in other words, we can say that soft power is the ability to attract people to our side without coercion or without force. Legitimacy is central to the soft power. If a person or nation believes American objectives to be legitimate, we are more likely to persuade them to follow our lead without using threats or bribes. So the soft power relies more on the intangible elements of power rather than the tangible elements of power to get its objective done. And legitimacy is at the center of the very concept of soft power. It can also reduce opposition and the cost of using hard power when the situation demands. Appealing to others' values, interests, and preferences can, in certain circumstances, replace the dependence on carrots and sticks. Cooperation is another idea which is at the center stage of the very concept of soft power, and it is always a matter of degree, and it is profoundly influenced by traction. So the that means the higher the attraction, the higher will be the degree of cooperation between states. So one of the roots of soft power could be traced back to Stephen Luke's argument on the third phase of power. The first phase of power was associated with Dahl, who stated that an actor who wins the argument or an issue has the power. Alternately, Bicharach and Barat argued that Dahl's approach neglected the second phase of power, represented by the suppression of some issues, thus in effect keeping them from being considered. In other words, the second phase refers to the ability to set the agenda. Lukes introduced the third phase of power, illustrating the ability of an actor A to get B to do something B would not otherwise do, is to affect B's preferences, desires, or thoughts. So the first two phases of power describe how power can be used to get someone to do what you want them to, even if it is against their own will. Conversely, the third phase of power describes how power could manipulate by changing what they want. So militaries are well suited to defeating states, but they are often poor instruments to fight ideas. Today, victory depends on attracting foreign populations to our side and helping them to build capable democratic states. Soft power is essential to winning the peace. It is easier to attract people to democracy than to force them to be democratic. So now we will talk about the smart power concept introduced by Joseph Nye recently, and it has been attracting a lot of researchers to research more about this very concept of power. So the smart power is neither hard nor soft. So first of all, we can see that it is neither hard nor soft. It is actually the skillful combination of both. Smart power means developing an integrated strategy, resource base, and toolkit to achieve the objectives of the states, drawing on both hard and soft power. So it is a strategy that underscores the necessity of a strong military, but also invest heavily in alliances, partnerships, and institutions at all levels to expand the influence of the state and establish the legitimacy of the state's action. So, providing for the global good is central to the effort because it helps the country reconcile its overwhelming power with the rest of the world's interest and values. And Americans have been trying to utilize this very concept by utilizing both the soft and hard power instruments, and they have been successful in that to some extent. So, taking the example of the United States of America here, it has in its past wielded hard and soft power in concert, with each contributing a necessary component to a larger aim. We used hard power to deter the Soviet Union during Cold War and soft power to rebuild Japan and Europe with Marshall Plan and to establish institutions and norms that have become the core of the international system. So today's context presents a unique set of challenges, however, and requires a new way of thinking about American power. So, summarizing our today's discussion, I would like to conclude today's speech in the following words that although the cooperative power and soft power resources such as the cultural tradition, ideology, and international institutions, as they are not new, it is only now that the soft power is growing in its theoretical and practical recognition. Thus, the theory is in urgent need of a comprehensive research. So, I hope you would have enjoyed our today's discussion, and in our next lecture, we will continue with the issues with the soft power, which is again a very significant topic to explore about. So that's all for today's discussion, and I hope you will go through this lecture thoroughly, and if you have any queries, please write your queries to me through WhatsApp group, and I would be quite happy to answer your questions. So until then, wish you best of luck. Stay safe and happy. Allah Hafiz.